You are listening to WERA 96.7 FM, Arlington, Virginia. This is your girl Yazzie Speaks on another episode of Millennial Minds. This evening we have Miss Nicole Kelly. She is a disability advocate and activist, and she is also Miss Iowa 2013. She ran on the national stage at Miss America in 2013. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, girl. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Oh, I'm excited. So tell us your story from the beginning.
Sure, yeah. So I was born with, I have my right hand, but my left hand I do not have. So what I do have is I have my left arm down past my elbow. But my arm goes just about an inch past my elbow, and it stops. And the doctors aren't totally sure why or what happened. The most that they can tell my mom is in the first couple of weeks of growth in utero, something happened where my arm just stopped growing. Nothing else was physically changed or different. Everything internally as well. Nothing is different there. I just happened to pop out with one hand, which was quite a shock. My parents didn't know that was going to happen. But really, for all intensive purposes, I lived growing up a very relatively able-bodied life. I played all the sports you can ever imagine in my small Iowa town. I danced forever. I swam. I was a lifeguard for a long time during high school and even into college. Very much I just learned to live life making adaptations and making adjustments to living with only having my right hand.
Wow. But it sounds like you still lived a normal child. You still had a normal is subjective, but you had an enjoyable childhood.
Absolutely. I think I was really lucky in the sense that I was the third child. I have an older brother and an older sister. I'm the baby. And so by the time I came around and I had something that was a little bit different, my parents essentially became you can do it. There are no excuses. Keep up with your older brother and your older sister. If they can do it, you can do it. So I'm very thankful that they kind of passed that attitude along to me. And that really was the attitude that I adopted. I think the other advantage that I have is because I grew up in a small town, everybody in my hometown just knew who I was, which made it very much a safe bubble where people didn't ask questions because people knew my parents and had watched me grow up and had watched me adjust. And so I wasn't constantly having to justify or prove myself necessarily because I was kind of living in this safe bubble where people knew who I was. And I think that worked to my advantage confidence-wise and really being able to experiment in my young years and figure out how to do things as I was growing up.
Wow. That's I love it. I think it's great. And just yourself, your spirit, your person, you definitely defy odds, and your story is very important, particularly in this day and age in the 21st century. So if you could tell us, so everyone, Miss Nicole here has a prosthetic arm and hand, aka a bionic arm. She represents the 21st century and beyond in technology. She is a gorgeous woman, by the way, very beautiful, very talented, very intelligent, and very inspirational on Instagram. So tell us when you tell us the story behind the bionic arm and hand. How old were you when you were able to have this experience? How did you find out about it? And, what has life been since then?
Sure. Yes. And thank you for all those kind compliments.
Oh, I mean every word. I mean every word.
Well, right back at you, girl. Yeah, no, it is. We're in a super, super cool and super interesting time where technology really is stepping in and starting to become what the futuristic movies made it out to be. And we are in a really cool era where prosthetic hands traditionally, so a very kind of short history is someone like me who was born with just one hand. If you went to a conference where there were hundreds of us gathering, which those do happen, and usually I'm there, when you go to those, you will never see any of us wearing prosthetics. And the history behind that is it's just easier when you're born, the way that we're born, to figure out how to do things with, for me, it's the end of my elbow and my hand. But now we're in a place where technology has advanced enough that really they have figured out ways to start making it work to our advantage. Prosthetists have, and they've really started to figure out ways where it can be useful. So here, I am in my mid-20s, have grown up trying prosthetics, but always not liking them, had figured I probably would never use one ever again. And I happened to be speaking at a conference full of prosthetists. And I was kind of wandering around the trade show booth after I spoke just to say hello and meet people. And there was a company there that asked me to sit down and try their product. And what their product is it reads your muscle movements, your patterns. So at the end of my arm, this intelligent computer could read my different muscle movements, and based on those muscle movements, it could store that in its memory, and it could remember when I moved my muscles one way, that meant make the hand at the end point. When I moved it another way, that meant close the hand. It has all of these ways to intelligently store that, and it blew my mind because I was like, oh my gosh, we are in the future right now.
That is amazing. I've only seen this in videos, and I just can only imagine how amazing, how cool.
It was mind blowing. And like I had said, I had been someone who had really kind of written off technology as being helpful to me.
So now why is that? Why did you write it off? Or did you have a bad experience with it, or you just decided, oh, that's not for me? I can.
Well, just kind of growing up, it never was helpful because technology hadn't advanced. It really, what they would do is they would put a heavy hand on the end of my elbow, and it wouldn't be able to open and close. It would be uncomfortable. It would be heavy. There wasn't a way for it to read my muscles the way that it now can read them. So it was way more work than it was worth to try to learn how to use one, which yet again, I know, if you're listening, you're thinking, yeah, but like if you work with it and figure out how to use those two hands, it must be easier. And the best I know how to say is it wasn't. It just was easier to do things with my one hand and my elbow. So I just had kind of given up on that idea. But now this technology has caught up to a place where it is able to be helpful. So that's what I'm doing now for about 6 months now. I've been
It's only been 6 months?
It's only been, so technically, yes, it's been 6 months. I got it in the summer. And
summer of 2017?
Just last year. Yep,
wow.
Just last year,
I thought you had this for a long time. Wow, okay.
Yeah, so which is crazy to think about. Really, that's when I started consistently wearing it and trying to learn it and figure it out. And, I'm not going to lie, it's hard just because I'm not used to having two hands. But the technology is exciting, and it is in a place where it's hopeful. It's just a matter of me learning to adjust to it. So it's been a big change, but also a fun change. And it's been quite the experience.
Nice.
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned or had to come to the biggest expectation that I had to readjust is that although, yes, it is very helpful, I still will be taking it on and off throughout the day depending on what I'm doing. So, for example, I type very, very quickly on a keyboard with my one hand, and I actually use my elbow to type. It helps me type. I use it for like Shift and S and A. So when I put on the prosthetic hand, it slows me down, and I probably will never slowly peck with the prosthetic hand. So, if I'm sitting down to type, I'll pop it off. And then when I'm done typing, I'll pop it back on.
Wow.
It's kind of funny. Yep, every day it's coming on and off all the time.
I was just going to ask you that. Wow. Okay. So tell us now, what have you been doing in terms of your advocacy and activism regarding people or individuals with disabilities or physical difference? I'll say that I notice in our present time that there are certain terms and phrases and words, descriptive words, and I think a lot of people are trying to get away from them. And disability tends to have a negative connotation for some reason. So explain to us, what it is that you do, why you see it as important, and also your perspective on the term disability, what that means to you, and how you empower others through your story and your experience.
Sure, absolutely. So you are absolutely right. Disability, that word specifically, gets a really bad rap. But ultimately, the disability is a community of really strong, really adaptable, really wonderful people. So a big kind of, I would say, like bullet point of what I'm really trying to change and what I'm trying to do is to change the connotation of what disability means. When you hear that word, instead of thinking pity, instead of thinking bad, I want you to think powerful. I want you to think strong. And not, when I say you, I don't mean people who are able-bodied. I mean people within my own community.
Wow.
A lot of people who live life like me, I mean, even specifically having one hand, still don't like the word disability. And I think it's so important for us to call ourselves what we are and to have pride in what we are and who we are in this amazing community that we are a part of. As far as laws and rights go, we still are very much fighting. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, and that was huge because that really changed a lot of laws and held companies very much accountable. But still, when it comes to things like healthcare, especially now in the current situation, healthcare is wildly threatened. People's independence who live with disabilities really count on having home health aides, count on having people, like, there are all these assistive devices, my hand being one of them, that can really be threatened by acts of Congress and acts of Senate and decisions that they make. So in order to be active and in order to fight at that level and really be active and really be making a difference, first, we're at step one, where I'm really just trying to rally the troops and remind them that we are proud to be a part of this community. And, we still are fighting for lots of things. And yes, some good things have happened over the past 30 years, but, we still have a ways to go. And our brothers and sisters who maybe live a life that is even more less able than we may need home health care aid. They may need very expensive tests done on a regular basis. They may need a very expensive wheelchair that helps them get around. Whatever that may be, my brothers and sisters with disabilities, we should be fighting for them, and we should be proud to fight for them.
Yes.
So that was a whole mouthful, but that's kind of the idea of what's being worked on, and it's that's the big picture, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. But certainly, working to build relationships and working to kind of cultivate pride is my immediate goal and what I've really been actively working on right now.
Thank you for the work that you do, Nicole. It sounds like your next move should be coming right back here to Washington, D.C. to be right there at the White House and, Capitol Hill and everything, and lobbying for health care specifically for your brothers and sisters with disabilities.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly very important, and I've been a part of Hill Days that have happened for amputees going in and talking to representatives and such. And
wow! Oh, you're already there. You're already there.
Well, there are certainly, I know people in the organizations, and I have friends who are passionate about doing it, and I've done it, and it's important. It's wildly important. It is. So I'm proud of the fact that there are organizations who are mobilizing and organizing and really making those days happen. It's important.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So tell us about your decision what made you decide to participate in a pageant, and particularly locally as Miss Iowa, and then to go on to Miss America. So tell us what caused you to make that decision, and what that experience was like, and what was it like to be on the National Miss America stage? Not that many women can say that they've had that awesome, amazing, probably very tedious and nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah, it was I mean, you're right. It was a lot of emotions. But in reference to kind of what we're talking about, really that experience going to the national stage of Miss America, when I won Miss Iowa, and, it's known right away that, of course, whoever wins Miss Iowa, Miss Maryland, Miss whatever state you may be, they are going to the national stage. And I immediately actually became world news. And the world news was...
So was that your first pageant?
That was my first year competing, yes.
Wow.
So but that scared me because the news, all of the headlines were disabled girl going to Miss America.
Oh, goodness.
And and you know what? At this point in my life, I would be wildly proud to be that person and to be on those news stations and saying, yeah, that's right, I'm disabled. And you know what? I still have learned how to curl my hair as big as Texas in order to walk on that stage, right?
I love it. I love it. I just think, disabled girl, I just sounds kind of like, you could give her a little bit more than, girl.
Thank you. Well, also that, right? But it was very hurtful and very extremely, it caused an identity crisis, and it caused me to look around and say, number one, oh my gosh, do I have a disability? Which the answer is yes. And obviously, as we've talked about, I found that it's an amazing community of people I love, but I did not consider myself to be someone who had that. So
this was probably your first time out of the comfort zone in which you grew up. And so now everyone else in the bigger world and society are giving you a label or giving you a title and saying, oh, this is what you are. And making sensationalizing it, as media has a tendency to do.
Correct.
The fact that maybe it was sort of, maybe they're making it as if it's uncommon or unusual for...
And it's kind of, when it comes to media and news, you're right. It's kind of twofold also in the disability world where, yes, they were making it, this is a big deal because this is a beauty contest, and is disability beautiful? That's one context. Mm-hmm. And then the other context is when the news and media talk about disability, they always take the spin of inspiration. And so,
that's good.
Good for her. Isn't that sweet? But it's in a way that's not good. So you're right. It can be inspiration. Absolutely can be good. You're right, Yazzie. It is. But in this case, it was oh, good for her. Isn't it great that she could go to Miss America even though she has a disability.
Wow.
So it really was
yeah.
dealing with those two big picture ideas that I had never personally come face to face with. And, it was really, really hard, and has caused me to, run down the path that I'm now running on, which, of course I am thankful for. But, with that being said, there was a lot of hairspray, a lot of sparkle. The girls who go to Miss America are so intelligent and so kind and so community service just minded. They are incredible. I can't say enough good about the girls who actually show up and represent on that stage. So I found a really amazing community of strong women, and that I also credit a lot for having the courage to kind of run down this path that I've run down, because I've been surrounded by those women in my life.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I agree. Something about pageants and pageantry, that if you're fortunate enough, which most of us who have done pageants, most of us are, you find yourself in this sisterhood, and you make lifelong friends, and yes, the women are very beautiful and intelligent and inspirational, and I think that we definitely have to continue to break some of the mindsets that people have about who pageant women are, because there are stereotypes and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you this: was your platform for Miss Iowa, was that the same platform that you carried to Miss America, or because of all of the media and the attention that you were getting as a result of making first place to go on to nationals, did that change your platform?
Well, it stayed the same, but if I were to go back, it would be different. Here's the distinction. What my platform is it was around my difference. It was talking about my disability, but the message was, I am no different than you. I am no different than any of the other girls on the stage. Now, if I could go back in time and redo the experience, my message would be, I am different, but that's okay, and I'm still beautiful, and I'm still intelligent, and I'm still, all of the ands that go along with that. I was working so hard to convince people that there was no difference, when that simply is not true. There is a difference, but that's okay. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect. Trust me, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And even myself, I struggle with, being in the fashion industry, and even with, as they call, plus or full figured models, curve models, there's still limitations, and so I have to make it's difficult, because I have to make it a point to say, hey, I am different. My body is different than the most of these curve models that are working in the industry, and are working in print and catalog and e-commerce, right? Those are the ones that are being seen. So I can completely, and as a child of an incarcerated parent, like, I can completely understand, but I love this message, and I love this evolution in your thought process that, it's okay. It's okay to recognize difference, but that can be and usually is all the more empowering.
Yeah. Well, I think you and I are in this really interesting slice of history where it's starting to be possible for these types of, differences to be seen, even though both of us are quite normal, but are not, people who are regularly seen in newsprints or on TV or whatever it may be. And so it's cool because society is starting to open up to those ideas and starting to look for us. But at the same time, we get to be kind of the people who are pushing it and maybe kind of experimenting and doing it for the first time, but also kind of, sort of, at least my sad reality is the fact that really I was never in a place where I could fully dream it, because nobody had really built that path for me. So I'm trying to
You
think
are
of
a
it as like,
trailblazer.
girl, yeah, I'm trying to, because I want the next generation to be able to dream it and do it, you know?
Yes.
So I don't know if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes.
Or if
No,
maybe
it
my
makes
thinking is wrong in that, but
no, it makes perfect sense. Trust me. You know,
yeah,
I would love to. That would be a dream come true to be on a national. I mean, this is just for me personally, like to be on a
yeah,
national stage, like Miss America, or Miss
yeah,
USA. But like my body type, in thus far has not quite been represented. It hasn't been represented. So, you know, I don't
yeah.
know.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is something that needs to change. Just period. No more needs to be said. That's something that needs to change.
Mm.
So I don't know. We're fighting for it. We're not quite there yet.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So tell us more in a couple minutes about uh what so you've shared with us your experiences up to this point and your message. So what is it that you also go to local schools and colleges, universities. So just tell us more about what life looks like now and what you do in terms of your speaking.
Sure, absolutely. So when it comes to disability-related things, I full time for a while. It's not my full time job anymore, but full time was speaking at elementary, middle, high schools, and colleges and universities across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I, for real, lived on airplanes and in my car, and that was a fantastic experience. And I've literally talked to hundreds of thousands of people and had the opportunity to, stay in the homes of people who have welcomed me with open arms, to, be in their homes and feed me food on their table, which I wouldn't trade for the world. Now I'm doing that. Now my shift my focus hasn't changed, because I still think that the way to change ideas and perceptions is to tell people your story and to talk about it.
Yes.
It's just kind of changed almost into I'm wanting to spread that message to the other people who are kind of living in my circle of being the leaders within this disability group that I'm in, and wanting to kind of lead the charge of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but yes, absolutely.
It does.
I've gone. The point though is that I have and continue to go into elementary, middle, high school, colleges, and universities, community events, whatever it may be. I go in and I tell my story. That really, always when going into specifically kind of group settings, when I'm in person, my want is to be able to share my story, number one, and then number two, to make it very clear that this is a safe space where they can ask me any question that they want about my disability, about my difference, because a lot of times there's shame associated with asking questions and wanting to be curious about difference, and I just want to take that shame away. So that kind of, in going into those situations, always is and was, when I was doing it full time, my major goal. But yeah, it has been, was incredible to really, I mean, I've gone across the country from California to New York and everywhere in between, just driving into tiny towns, driving into big towns, speaking in the middle of New York City, speaking in the middle of San Francisco, driving to nowhere in Kentucky. Just being on the road, really having the chance also at a young age to be able to see our country and to experience kind of the different pockets of our country. It has also been a really, I think, cool and invaluable experience as well. So anyway,
so
that was long-winded. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's so wonderful. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for all that you represent and who you are and what you do, for sharing your story. It's so important. Thank you for sharing your story here at Millennial Minds, and tell us where we can find you on social media and also your website.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. I am at Nicole G. Kelly. My middle name is Georgia, so that's what the G is for, Nicole G. Kelly. And Facebook, I am Nicole Kelly. You can find me that way. And then my website is www.nicolegkelly.com. You can find me. There are ways to contact me there, all of those ways.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are at Millennial Minds. We are your cheerleaders. If you allow us, to consider ourselves as cheerleaders for you and a support system. So if there's anything that I can ever do, definitely don't be just let us know.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much, and I love all that you are doing. So thank you as well.
Thank you, Nicole. All right. Well, everyone, thank you again. Thank you for tuning in to Millennial Minds with Yazzie Speaks. You are listening to WERA 96.7 FM, Arlington, Virginia. Until next time, peace.